Thank you for all the organization for this. We have 30 minutes. I think it is not a lot of time for the things that I would like to talk to you about. Let me just give you a short introduction about myself. So my name is Enrique Melero. So I'm a crypto finance consultant. I am based here in Geneva, though I travel quite a lot to Spain and to the German part of Switzerland as well. I founded a company called Helvetia Fintech. We have our offices in Ovid. I will let you know when we can pass the slide. Thank you. So yes, it is okay now. You can move on next one. So okay, so just solely about my career, so that you know where my background is. So I was working in Spain during my studies for Apple, doing hardware support. I worked then for IBM in Germany, where I was completed my career, my scholarship with in Germany, IBM there, where I worked as a C++ programmer. That was for a project with the Bundesbank, so it was very much related to finance already by the time. The biggest concern by the time was the year 2000 back. I don't know whether you remember that. Then I came to Switzerland and I started working for a company called Nokia, that I'm sure that you know well. This company, by the way, has now disappeared, even the brand exists there. And then after 4 years, I moved to Reuters, working as lead developer for a team that created products for banks. So again, very much linked to finance and technology. And then this company disappeared as well. Reuters was bought by Thomson. And then I decided to work for a private bank because I thought that was the safest place to work. And then I joined a couple of private banks. And the last one was HSBC, where I was the global finance COO, working for the private banking finance to support basically the CFO in the implementation of the strategy. Since last year, in the end of last year, I'm independent and I am a crypto finance consultant and working for my own company called Helvetia Fintech. So we can move on. Thank you. So you know where I am and who I am. Can move to the next slide, please.
It's done.
Okay. So I wanted today to talk about tokens and how we have to count for tokens. It is a very vast subject, so I think we have not yet scratched the surface of that, but maybe we will manage to do it during today's presentation. Because I'm based in I'm now in Madrid, so it's difficult for me to see if someone has questions. I cannot look at the people and see the feedback in the faces of or whether they are getting it or not. Then I would appreciate if maybe using the chat or something, someone can tell me I'm speaking too fast, or or nobody's getting anything, so I can maybe correct online. Okay, so so counting tokens. So we see that all these companies raising money with tokens, and or people actually buying tokens to make some money. The biggest questions that I would have as someone who's been involved in finance is, how are they calculating the profit and loss? So how can they really have those numbers that allow them to make meaningful decisions? If we go a step further, it's just how are they going to establish the basic accounting? So they will need to report accounts to the authorities, and for that they will need to account for those tokens. So I'm just going to briefly show you what are the challenges that they have in front of them, and then obviously there are other things like how they will hedge the risk that they have, especially market risk, but as well things like the liquidity risk, or the things like the credit risk. That's completely different subject that I'm not going to stumble upon today because it's too short for that. So I'm just going to focus on the accounting and how we will count on P&L. This is not a masterclass on accounting. Obviously, I'm not an accountant myself, but I think that it can bring some ideas or what are the kind of challenges that these companies have in front of them, or that we all have in front of us. This is something that I already am facing. I'm working with clients with their own issues on how they should report the numbers. So this is a very real thing. If you think that last year there was raised so much money with so many companies, just focusing in Switzerland. These companies, they are probably going to be established, or they've been established during this year, and they will have to do their accounting and do their statutory accounts by the end of the year. And the challenge is also ongoing. Okay, so I'm just going to try to present a couple of cases and then see how people manage to deal with them. So for that, I thought I will then present some actors, some typical people that I'm sure each of you have at least met. So there's this Mr. Speculos. It is a casual domestic crypto trader, someone who has built his own portfolio of crypto with cryptocurrencies and as well with tokens. So someone that does other things, as professionally, that as well does some crypto trading at home. Second one is Mr. Wolf, who is can you go back to the one which I'm presenting the people? Sorry.
Yes. This one. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that one. Thank you. So Mr. Wolf, which is a professional trader, this guy spends the whole day doing trading, and he's making a life out of that. So I'm presenting as well Mr. ICO, who is a young entrepreneur who founded a company called the Next Big Idea, and they did some money raising using an ICO. And then we will have another case that we're not going to be able to see today, maybe in another occasion, which is Mr. Stock Accountant, who is the CFO of Mr. ICO, and who is facing the challenge of dealing with all these new animals that are tokens. So let's then start with Mr. Speculos, which is the very first person. So this person is someone who has a portfolio with some tokens and some cryptocurrencies. This guy makes some good money buying and selling them, but in no way he can be considered as a professional. To make it more relevant, we will assume that this person lives and pays taxes in Switzerland. This guy is basically sitting on what I call the right-hand side of the balance sheet. And you will see why. We can move to the next one. I'm trying to show you all this through spreadsheets, trying to figure out what is the kind of spreadsheet that Mr. Speculos and the other actors are using in the daily life to be able to make decisions. So basically someone who is trading daily makes kind of a first statement where I am today, then he will look at another point in time and he will try to derive his P&L by looking at that. So he will probably list what are his assets. He will put, okay, I have so many Bitcoins, I have so many Ethereum, I have some Litecoin, some IOTA, and some Waves. I just took these examples because happen to be the ones that I had more at hand in time series. So I actually put some real numbers. So I put, I figure out, okay, not the portfolio, that's completely created by myself like that. But I put really what is by the 1st of January of 2018, what was the value in Swiss franc of each of those currencies, so we can get an idea of what was the total assets that he had by the 1st of January. So this is a very simple exercise. Just look at the FX rate or at the crypto rate for each of those cryptos and tokens and just convert them to Swiss franc. And then I look at, last week when I just did my last assessment or where I was, and I looked at my portfolio, so I'm not changing anything. I just kept it there because I was very busy doing other things, and I just updated the rates, and then I will look at, what's my total value of my assets, okay? So this looks quite simple, should be quite straightforward. So that brings me a very basic calculation of my result in Swiss francs, which is the difference of these 2 days. So it's 4,000 francs that I lost. That's okay, so I hope crypto will go up, and at some point I will make some money. This is the Speculos spreadsheet. So let's look at how Mr. Crypto Wolf looks at his numbers. We can move on the next slide, please, Sarah. Thank you. So I'm presenting you Mr. Crypto Wolf. He's a portfolio trader. He's a former spot trader. Let's say he was working in in a trading desk somewhere, and he decided he's gonna now do crypto trading daily and professionally and make money with that. And he's doing a good job at it. He has a portfolio with dozens of different tokens and crypto, and he does it professionally. He lives and pays taxes in Switzerland. I'm not gonna go so in detail on how he pays taxes, but just that we can relate it to someone that maybe all of us know. I know Sarah is sending me a message. It is something important I want to see. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay, I saw really always like, okay, super, thank you. So, thank you, Rolly. So, this person, he doesn't really look at the balance sheet because he's a trader, he's not an accountant. He looks at things in a different way. An FX trader or crypto trader that does this professionally, he wants to make money intraday. He doesn't really keep positions in the long run. He tries to buy and sell daily and make money with that. And normally they will use something that they call a blotter. I'm going to show you what is the blotter of Mr. Wolf. It looks a bit complex. It is not that complex. We can move on the next slide, Rolly, please.
Next again.
Okay. So I don't know whether you are able to see the headings. Normally there was another slide with the headings that we missed it, but I'm going to try to tell you how it works. So this person buys and sells daily, and what he's interested in seeing is how much money he has made in each of the trades. So it's a completely different way of looking at it. This guy has to finish the day and know what is his P&L, and this person what wants to know as well is what is the P&L he did with each of the operations that he did. So it's a completely different version of the same truth, if you want. So if it was a crypto or a hobbyist that does some occasional investing in crypto, you will look at what is your value at some given point in time, and then just compare it to another point in time. A professional trader will look at the spreadsheet like this one, in which he's looking at the buy amount, sell amount. He converts that to the end of the rate, and then he will get a P&L out of each operation. Because he's a professional trader, he makes money with it. So, and then for him, it's so easy as just getting day by day and getting the total accumulated P&L that he's done out of all the trades. He can then get some very nice statistics out of this, because this is obviously much more in-depth information of his activity. And typically, because as well, he likes playing with spreadsheets. This is something that happens to everybody on a trading desk. He will then build some numbers himself. Maybe we can turn to the next slide, please, Aurelie. Yeah, and he will make some pivot tables out of that data. There's nothing new there, it's just the same data just on some pivots, and then he will be able to see how much P&L he did for different currency pairs. As you can see here, you see that the number is the same as the total number that we had before. Can you go on mute, please, Aurelie, because I can hear my feedback and I cannot talk like this. Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, go back to the next previous slide.
Wait a second.
Ooh, go on.
Ok. Voilà. Putain, je déteste cet ordinateur. Il est parti. Oh mon Dieu.
I'm waiting that the slide goes
Yes,
again. I don't know whether it has gone for everybody or only for myself.
We've got some problems.
Aurelie?
Yes.
So you tell me when I can continue, okay?
Yes. Putain,
Thank you.
ça va pas du tout. Sorry, guys.
I could show it to you here, but you know, it's not very readable.
What?
Well, I guess I cannot show it to you here like this. It's not very readable.
Wait a second.
You can put it. Yeah.
Mais je sais pas pourquoi ça se ferme à chaque fois.
C'est la connexion.
Je sais rien. Excusez-moi les gars. C'est quoi
qui se ferme?
La présentation.
Il nous entend là, il peut parler?
Il nous entend, oui.
Ok, bah, attends, moi, je vais...
Oui, ils vous entendent bien.
Well, Enrique, maybe we can talk about during the 1 minute that we are waiting. Maybe we can talk about the importance of
Sure.
having an accounting and balance
Okay.
sheet.
So no problem with that. So you just tell me when I will see the presentation, then
Okay,
I can continue
I
on that.
tell you, but then you can share with us why it is important, please.
Yeah, I can share this with everybody.
Thank you.
Let's do something, Sarah.
Yes.
Can you ask people, or maybe they can hear me directly, how
Yes.
many of you are accountants or have to do with accounting in a daily basis in a financial institution? Can you raise your hands? I would like to get an idea of how many of you have some kind of knowledge of accounting or have to deal with accounting professionally or just by studies. I cannot see you, so you will tell me how many people, you can count them.
Enrique, there is 13 approximately people that are doing accounting on a weekly basis or BAU.
Out of how many? Out of how many people?
I'm not doing that much math. I would say maybe 60, yeah, sorry? 40 out of 40 people.
Okay, so that is a very good ratio. Let's say 25% of the people roughly, of the people that is there, no more than that. 40% maybe, yeah. So
Yeah.
they know about accounting. So this is gonna be then meaningful for everybody. Can you go mute please, because I have my own feedback?
Yeah.
So this, I was showing you the spreadsheet that Mr. Wolf makes, and this is the spreadsheet that he will present his accountant in the finance department, in the back office, and his controller, if he would have one, because he doesn't have one, he works alone at home. But otherwise, this is his own calculation where he can see the volumes for each currency, how much he has bought, sold, and how much money he has made with each trade. So he will look at it, and as you can see as well, he's mixing fiat currencies like Swiss francs and US dollar together with the crypto, because for him really doesn't make any difference, each of them. He will trade one as the other, or they will just mix them, which is a very normal thing. And he has to take into account as well at which original rate he entered in the crypto market. And he did that through probably buying some crypto with Swiss francs or with US dollar. So it is important that it is as well reflected there. So it's a very different vision of what the occasional trader does at home, and he has a much more insight of what he's doing. He gets volumes, he knows what's the P&L that he's doing year to day quite accurately. This is really not something you can match with accounting, but he has a way to get going in a daily basis to see what he has done well or not, like any professional will do. Okay, this is the vision of Mr. Wolf, and then he will have his own year-to-date P&L that he will, if he would work in a bank or in a asset management company, he will have to defend that in front of his controller. Tell, okay, I made this much money today. I want to see this reflected into accounting, and that's the number he comes with. And he's able to split that by all different slice and dice it by currency and stuff. So let's move on to the next one, please. So we can see one basic calculation that the accountant will do. In the end, Mr. Wolf will come up with a number that is the number that he has calculated daily. But this is using real rates. And even though Mr. Wolf was showing a positive P&L, because he's looking at daily positions and daily P&L for each of these trades, he's not accounting for the change in value of the stock of assets that he has. So he's not realizing, or he's not calculating the unrealized P&L of the existing positions. Okay, so and this is where the difference with the accountant is. I just took exactly the same numbers that Mr. Wolf. I can show you the spreadsheet, and then I put here the way that the accountant will look at it. He will get by currency starting position. You see that the first day there was only Swiss francs, and then how much he bought and sold for each of the currencies. You saw that he sold all the Swiss francs, and then end position is 0, and it has a number of other positions there. So this is the total value of the at the end that you can see of the in US dollar, and the calculation that the accountant will make is very simple. He will take the total value of the US dollars You can see it in this formula, 79,000. He will divide it by the rate with Swiss franc US dollar rate, which is 0.95 as of end of last week. And then this is the current value of the assets in Swiss francs, and he will deduct the value of Swiss francs that he started with. And you can see that he comes up with a very different P&L, a negative P&L. And it is not only that Mr. Wolf was thinking he was making money, it's not that the number was wrong, it's that really the accountant has a loss, and a very big loss. And this is what will happen typically if someone will try to do this comparison between how a trader daily looks at the P&L. If we go back to the spreadsheet, two slides back, or please. So he will do a trade-by-trade calculation of P&L, and these are real numbers, so this is correct, and how it is done when you will look at the accounting, which is just much more like someone who does trading at home will make. So just looking at two different positions, do a mark to market, which is called. Is just bring the assets using some market rates to today's rates, and then see what is the P&L. So maybe so far there are some questions. I have still 10 minutes to talk. So maybe if someone has questions, now is the moment. Or if you prefer, we can leave them for the end.
Any questions?
Okay, we go to the next case then. Our next actor. Okay, his name is Mr. ICO, and he's a person who completed a degree in marketing and communication, and he is a very creative person, and he's got a very good idea, and he called company Next Great Idea, NGI, and then he made a very nice campaign, an ICO launch campaign, token generation event, hired some advisors, did all the PR that you have to do, and then managed to get 100 million Swiss francs selling this token in last June. Okay, he will eventually go live this year with the company, but that's not very clear. What is for sure is that he has to report numbers to the authorities, to the FINMA, or just basically to the shareholders. And if he's got a limited responsibility society or an SA, for the amount of money he will have to present numbers. He starts thinking he might need to hire a CFO to start reporting those numbers, and probably a lawyer as well. And we're going to see why. So let's move on to the next slide already. So this is the spreadsheet that someone like Mr. ICO, who is someone who's not an accountant, he comes from the business and marketing side. He will make a very simple calculation. I didn't have anything to start with. And then I raised this money in my ICO in June. I managed to get this number of Ethereum, this number of Bitcoin, and if you look at the rates at which Ethereum and Bitcoin were in June 2017, you will realize that adds up to 100 million equivalent of US dollar, which is what we were expecting. Okay, fine. And then he comes so far, and then he looks at where he is today. So during this time, since June, he has converted some of the Bitcoin or the Ethereum to cash, because he needed to get some Swiss francs for different things. He had to live himself. So he has now 200,000 Swiss francs. He's got some Ethereum still. He's got some Bitcoins still. And this is the calculation. And I did really the conversion using the rates that were prevailing as of last week. So he made the calculation, and then he finds that he's got 324 million Swiss francs. And then he says, okay, this is wonderful. I didn't have anything to start with. I started with nothing, and now I've got 325 million. It's not only that I have much more than I raised, because I raised 100 million in June, but now because cryptocurrencies have been going up, maybe my own token as well, then I'm now in that. You see that here, there is no no side of a token. So his own token is just not yet visible. Why? Because this is the asset view, right? And obviously in the asset view, he doesn't have any token. He sold the tokens, okay? So let's look at the rest of the spreadsheet because he's not seeing, okay, this cannot really work. So I have to have, there must be something there. And then he realizes, yeah, obviously there is something that is called liabilities, and this is the other side of the balance sheet. And this other side of balance sheet is the one that he's trying to make sense of it. And he put in the liabilities, okay, those are my tokens. Those are the NGI tokens. It is like capital. The company is my source of financing. And I use this number of tokens. They were sold for 10 tokens for each Ether. So that's the reason, that's the amount in Ether equivalent. And these are the numbers that were originally calculated. So then this is the Ether equivalent, and this is the equivalent in US dollar as of today's rates. So he finds, and those are real rates, that he's got a total $500 million of liabilities. And this is coming from 100 million of initial money raised through his ICO. But the way things work, looking at the price of the token, actually the price of the token is visible in the next slide. Actually, the token was depreciated, lost some value, but still was when you compare it to the value of the asset, that is the calculation that he does, it still goes up quite a lot. Obviously, all the P&L of the expenses of the year are not included there. He just assumes it's part of the P&L somewhere, and the calculation happens like this. So this is an exercise, very simple exercise, where you see how someone who has raised money through an ICO, when he just makes the accounting, the basic accounting, he will end up. Maybe there was another slide. Maybe no, that was the last one. Okay, it's not included here, but it's something that I would like then next occasion where I would have a bit more time show you what really happens under the hood. You can start thinking what will happen with that person when he presents the numbers to the shareholders. In the end, he will have a company and he has some accounting to show, and he will have to present a number in which, if he does the mark to market as you should be doing at current market values, you will end up with P&Ls of this kind of size, which is quite terrible. Report to your shareholders that in theory they were making a lot of money with the tokens, that suddenly the company that they are kind of owning is basically broken because it's what will be declared. So those companies were not viable and they will have to raise money or just disappear. And that is the normal thing that probably will happen during probably this year, next year. And this is a prediction. I hope you are not going to quote me. But this is basically all I wanted to show you through the example of these three people. I didn't go to the last one, which is the professional accountant that is accounting for the ICO for this startup that raised this NGI, this next great idea token, and that's something that I would like to maybe develop in the next ICOChain if I'm invited. So I now give you a chance to ask me questions. So I'm not seeing you, so someone will have to raise their hand, and someone will have to either pass the microphone or read the questions that you received through the pigeonhole system. Thank you.
Thank you, Enrique. So you can see the room. So any question about accounting, P&L, balance sheet? Okay.
So I have a question about this third example, about this person that did some ICO. So do you think that because of the fact that in this spreadsheet we see here some loss, do you think that the company will need to pay some corporate tax or no?
Oh, I know what will happen if you make a loss. You don't pay taxes because the only taxes you would pay is if you make a profit. You will pay taxes on capital if you have a given amount. But this company will not be taxed by profit because it's not going to have profit. What will happen is that if there is some people that are to which this company is owing money, these people can go to a judge and say this company is broken and it needs to be intervened. and something that can happen very easily. So it's not a tax issue here. I'm not an expert on tax, but we have some therein as well in the participants of this conference. Maybe someone can correct me.
No, you're right. There is also Boris who's working in tax. So we have another question on the tool, which is how important it is for Mr. ICO to incorporate financials into the white paper pitch book for pre-ICO.
It is. I haven't seen a single person doing it. Well, I'm not someone who reads lots of white papers. I'm going to put this like this because it's not actually my own feedback. It is difficult because they will have to do projections of rates that they don't know. So nobody can really cut what will happen with the volatility of the Ethereum of the Bitcoin. Nobody thought, for example, that the price was going to multiply by 20 by the end of the year compared to the beginning of the year. So it's something that they will have to do things like that are only are only doable by real experts. They will have to do things like stress testing, like setting up the scenarios, and then do some Monte Carlo simulations and stuff like that that really can only be done by a risk department in the bank. And we are talking big numbers here, huh? So 100 million is quite a lot, and that can lead to a loss of basically a year of almost 200 million. So it is quite big.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other question? Okay, just one.
Good evening, thanks for the presentation. It's a very volatile market in terms of cryptocurrencies, and when you're looking at P&L or any other financial projections or financial documents, how can you build something that is really robust, considering that the value of P&L may change on a daily basis? Thank you.
Okay, that is a very good question. This has been invented already years ago. You have to hedge your positions, basically. You either find a natural hedge, or you just go to someone and then try to structure some hedge. You cannot just go and pretend that your P&L is going to be made of tokens that raise in value, and that's going to be the promise to your shareholders, so to say, because that will directly hit your liabilities of the balance sheet, and they will basically put you on bankruptcy. The tools for no bank, for example, takes this huge amount of risk. Not even a big bank will accept to take 100 million of unhedged positions in a very volatile currency. And this exists today. So you have today banks that have to deal with positions in currencies that are called Mexican peso, or that they were called Philippine peso, or Thai baht, I can imagine. So currencies that might depreciate 25, 30, 40% within a month. And banks need to hedge that, and this is a very important part of their activity daily, because this is a lot of money. The fact that these companies, even though they have a product, they have a huge amount of cash to have to hedge, that really would lead to ask them, do you have a CFO who is able to put the means in place to have a riskless or a proper due diligence of your own positions and risk positions? The answer will be no. I didn't think of hiring a CFO. I only thought of my CTO and of my CMO or my CEO and my COO. But they wouldn't tell you I hired a controller and an accountant who can professionally assess the risk that I have on my balance sheet.
Okay, thank you very much, Enrique. Now we are going to... There is a last question, but very quick answer, please, because there is Sweet Bridge after, which is why the token is recorded as a liability and not a reserve. Please.
What is the reason the token is recorded as a liability on the balance sheet? Is that the question?
And not a reserve.
Oh, not a reserve.
Yes.
Because it's not a reserve. So reserve is the result of an operating. It's something that happens at the end of the exercise, where you have to book some of the typically P&L to the reserves, reserves are on the liability side as well. It wouldn't really make much of a difference. Probably out of this exercise, well, I cannot advance, I'm not an accountant, but reserves very much have to be seen as something that are liabilities as well. They are not something that goes like cash in the asset side, okay? So typically, if you are really referring to the reserves that you have to have for certain things, those reserves is just a way to block part of your capital, if you want, so that you know that it is somewhere appearing on the asset side of the balance sheet, and you know that that's linked to some kind of former results or former unviable hedging positions. So I cannot really go in detail, but really reserves is not something that goes on the asset side. It wouldn't make any difference if you have them as reserves.
Okay, thank you very much. And yes, I don't know if you see the room.
Okay, so thank you everybody. Thank you for the good questions. I hope next time I'll have a chance to have a beer with you after the meetup. Thank
Yes,
you,
of
Sarah.
course.
Thank you, Relly, for the organization.
Take
you very
care.
much, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay, have a good afternoon. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.